This is the part 2 of 2 parts for the series. I used every single weapon in Mordhau. This is every weapon that's I think 6 points and above. I hope you enjoy. Same deal as last video, and well, I fixed some editing as well. I hope you guys enjoy. The battle axe is basically the war axe with less damage and it's slightly faster, which I do not personally like. It means you can't one-shot unarmored for chests, which is also a big not selling point for me, at least. Doesn't really help to have a faster thing if it doesn't actually, it's not as effective as the counterpart. It's more expensive and in my opinion it feels a little bit worse and plays worse than the war axe. ESTOC is just basically a glorified rapier. When I've been playing with the weapon in public matches, people still would call me a cocklord for using it because it's a stab weapon, which apparently doesn't take skill, even though it's slower, and people still do use the swings even though they're not as effective, but they're definitely more effective than the rapier, which I again don't understand. People still get mad at this weapon. It's not that bad. It's just a more stab focused longsword. I don't understand. It's like, the ESTOC is a fine weapon in my opinion. You use it if you want to. It looks actually pretty nice, and also can be couched on a horse with the F key, which means if people would run up to your sword, they just instantly take I think 70 damage depending on the armor. But of course, if the animation is very fast compared to the spear and other couched weapons, that I think it's very worth couching it and trying to kill somebody with. Is the second polearm on the list behind the short spear. It's actually 10 centimeters shorter than the short spear, surprisingly. I did not believe this, but it's actually true. It does very good swing damage as well as stab damage, and its ult mode makes it stop and hit, repair buildings, which turns into a hammer because the backside is a hammer, of course. And like most pole arms, this can be couched, dealing quite mediocre damage. And in my opinion, the pole axe is actually a pretty fun weapon to use after you get used to it, and you guys should give it a try. The executioner sword is like the second most memey weapon in the game. It's mostly known for being able to one-tap legs with level 0 legs with its swings, and it's basically like the MAUL, but kind of not that much. It's definitely focused more on slashing than the pitiful stabs that it gives, which is about, what, 25 damage at most to the head. It's very bad, but it's very fun to swing, and it can cause for some very fun moments. Like in real life, the greatsword is basically a too big longsword, which then kind of goes into this mechanic where you can't really be that precise and you can't be really that careful with it. So you start doing sweeping motions, which is basically a prime example of what this weapon is for. It has a very long active damage time, which means you can drag or excel very well. It has an active damage hitbox of about slightly over half a second, and which is where it excels. And you can use the Mordhau grip option, which is clicking R to switch grips to basically hold the weapon by a handle and the blade to kind of stab, making the stabs deal more damage and make them return faster than stabbing normally with the normal full grip. The big funny weapon of Mordhau. It has an insane amount of active weapon hitbox, and it can one-tap every single tier of head armor, as well as two-tap every single part of the body. It can also be thrown, which definitely does less damage, about half, but it still one-taps up to tier 2 heads when thrown. The main game plan with the MAUL is to use feints and excels and drags to just get an easy one-tap headshot on his enemies. Bardiche is actually a very interesting weapon. In its ult mode, it extends its range to 20 centimeters past the short spear, otherwise it's the same range as the short spear. In its ult mode, it can one-tap, swing, 0 armor legs, which means it's basically kind of like the execution sword. In higher tier fights, actually not having leg armor is pretty common, so if you have a Bardiche user just changes his grip, it can kind of really funny things with one-tapping people's legs that don't have armor there, like people in dual servers, got to mention, but the Bardiche can be couched. EVENINGSTAR is an incredible one-on-one weapon. It's actually been banned recently from Mordhau tournaments because of the fact that it just drains so much stamina that it's unfair to actually fight on an equally skilled opponent that knows how to parry well. It has mediocre damage, even though it can one-shot level 1 and not equipped heads. Its ult mode makes it shorter, but makes its stabs better, but its swing a little bit worse. Look at it before we move to this next segment. I actually now recorded playing with the Morningstar, and it's so fun. I had the most fun with this weapon as well as the Bardiche towards the end, and it's definitely a good weapon. All I can say. It's probably one of the most hated stabby weapons in Mordhau. It is actually just very fast. In fact, it has a lot of good damage. It's basically just a longer rapier, and I haven't used it that much yet, but from what I have used it, it's a super annoying weapon to go against. With dodge, enemies are just impossible to hit sometimes, and it's a generally annoying weapon that can be couched, but for the right cost. The is probably one of the most recognizable weapons in Mordhau. It's basically just a giant sword which uses very wide sweeping moves to take out multiple groups of enemies, and it's usually run with not that heavy armor because the big swings actually are very useful with high mobility. It's actually kind of weird how little this weapon is used, despite the fact that you can get really cheeky hits in with the drags and excels that this weapon gives you. Last weapon and polearm for this video is the halberd. The halberd is just basically a polearm and longer version of the Zweihander. It has very good slashes, stabs, and ultimate, which I think affects blunt damage against armor, which is all very nice as well for armored enemies. It is the most expensive weapon in the game, clocking in at a solid 11 points beside the longbow, and it's generally a very drag or just using its very long swing animation to your advantage. So that's it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I just want to say this is the ending of the series. I might make a series, I might revisit this idea in the future, and of course comment down below what you guys want to see next. I really enjoyed making this video, especially with the last 5 weapons. It was so fun to record them. Probably the Morningstar and the Bardiche are my favorite. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more of these videos. Follow me on Twitter, check out my Discord, or add me on Discord if you want to, and have a good day.